I would let you smother me in that all day. Afternoon campers, how the devil are you? You catch me again by the side of the river on my little local 6-7 miler down the river and back again along the canal. Short one today because I went on the 9 miler yesterday from got the train to Buxton and then walked all the way back to Whaley Bridge. Which was amazing. If you haven't seen that video, go and watch it. An amazing day out and beautiful weather, as it is again today, which is in a way a shame because I was hoping for some worse weather. I know that sounds counterproductive, but I just want a day where I can finish off editing my photo suite on my computer and get videos, start getting videos edited and ready for uploading. And I'm almost at that stage now, but just haven't found the time. And the reason for that is because every day so far for the last week or so, maybe a bit longer, has been glorious, as it is, as you can see today. Slight chill in the air. If it was windy, there would be a biting wind, but beautiful nonetheless. And I was sorely tempted to get on a train again today and go for another 5 to 10 miler from that website that I found. Lots of walks all the way around the West Pennines there, Whaley Bridge, Marple, Glossop, all that kind of area. But I decided not to save my train fare for another day, and hopefully the BBC weather site, which is what I've been using to tell me what the weather's going to be like in Manchester and the surrounding area. Hopefully it'll be accurate, because the last few days it hasn't been, and I've been relying on that really. Today was meant to be cloudy and it's sunny again. So that's the story so far, and the reason why I'm here again, just on a short one, just to get out and about, stretch my legs and get them warmed up, keep them going, and keep the stamina and the fitness for walking routine regular. And fingers crossed there'll be another glorious day like this later in the week. It's meant to be cloudy for the next few days until the weekend at least, I think, but let's see. The BBC is often wrong. So I'm walking down this part of the river again. It's quite busy again today. I think is it Tuesday today, and it's quite busy. I think it's the 2nd of March. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, well, let's start at the beginning. My journey until I start recording is often 1 or 2 miles until I get to the river or the canal where I start filming, and the reason for that is because the traffic is so bad. I'm in a built-up area. There's nothing really much to look at, and but that first 20-30 minutes or so before I start doing that is a good time for me to start thinking about what I want to record, what I want to talk about for that day. And sometimes I think days in advance what I want to talk about. Some days, as you probably remember from previous videos, it just seems to come out of my mouth from the top of my head, and I've no control over really where the direction of my thoughts and where they lead to. But today I was at a loss. I didn't want to talk about anything too negative after such a glorious day yesterday, and here we have to leave the river just temporarily. While that building is going on there, I'm sure the path will open up again once all this monstrous residential area is finished. So they'll backstreet meander while they finish that off. Anyway, as I was saying, that first part of the journey is sometimes where I think about the subject or the topic that I'd like to talk about that day, and I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of anything at all. Had a cup of tea in the kitchen this morning, staring out the window at Manchester, thinking, what is there to talk about? There's loads of stuff, but pinpointing something and considering it in enough detail so that I've got a fairly substantial train of thought throughout my video is quite important. I don't want to just dry up and then just end up cobbling loads of little small clips together that don't make any sense. So wow, it's still busy around here. Bloody people, go back to work. So yeah, so there we are. I don't know if you can hear me above the noise of the annoying building work that's going on and the guys shouting at each other. Should be quiet in a moment or so. Anyway, so there we go. And what might be fun, I thought, for future videos too, perhaps, is to and maybe some suggestions. Maybe people will come up with some suggestions of things, ideas that I can talk about on my rambles. And two things that did cross my mind this morning were plastic, which you haven't seen yet, but I did. There was a theme running through my walk yesterday was plastic, and another one which is quite dear to my heart really is the concept of ancient civilizations. And so I thought, well, there's two topics that I'd like to talk about. Not really sure that there's any connection between them, but why not try? Why not give myself two completely random topics and see if I can, through my ramblings, meld them together into some kind of discourse. So that's today's two topics, plastic and ancient civilizations. Wish me luck. So where shall we begin? First of all, forgive me if the noise of the construction going on over this lovely graffitied wall is noisy, but it should die down in a second once we're past it. So plastic. Okay, my own personal challenge is accepted. So the reason I wanted to talk about plastic and why it's become prevalent through my recent walks, although you won't have known that yet, is the places that I've walked. Some of them very urban, some of them, like yesterday, completely in the middle of nowhere. But of course, places that I'm walking, as we've already discussed, there's going to be cyclists and joggers and people walking their dogs and things like that. And that doesn't matter whether it's in the city centre or just outside like I am now, or whether it's in on the top of the Pennines. Wherever you go, wherever I walk or anybody walks, there's going to be people with dogs, and that's the important thing here. So I've been gathering a rather strange collection of photos over the last few weeks and months that I've been doing so much walking. And the photos that I've been collecting, I'll put on the screen for you. I'll make a melange, or whatever the technical term is, for a group of photos. And not very pleasant to look at, granted, but just basically photos of plastic bags by the side of the path, full of dog shit. Hi guys, Future Pete here, and I just wanted to add at this point a few facts for you to think about. In the UK, there's about 9 million dogs, according to RSP latest figures. How much dog shit do you think those 9 million dogs do every year? Okay, let's see how close you were. 1 million tons. 1 million tons of dog shit every year are produced by the dogs in the UK. And similar kind of ratio in the USA. Latest figures think that in the USA there's around 83 million dogs. And they produce about 11 million tons of dog shit every year. 11 million tons. That means that in the UK, each 9 dogs that you come across are producing a ton of shit between them every year. That's got to go somewhere. Does it go to landfill? Does it get put in a plastic bag? Does it get disposed of correctly? Or do you end up stood in it in a path as you're walking down the canal? I'm going to put a link down below as well to an excerpt from The Guardian that I found, and just one of many, where it talks about this in a lot more detail. Go check it out if you like. Now, when I say 1 million tons, what does that conjure up in your head? Have you got any idea what 1 million tons looks like? I certainly didn't have, so I had to Google it. 1 million tons is about a sixth of the weight of the Great Pyramid, which is around 6 million tons. Or to put it another way, think of the size of an aircraft carrier that sails the ocean. The average aircraft carrier, you'd need 10 of those to make 1 million tons. That's how much dog shit our dogs are producing every year. So, and it doesn't matter where you are. And I don't know if it's some kind of competition or not. Some of them are just cast by the wayside. Some of them, like one yesterday I spotted, was actually just put on top of a fence post. And even more, as you'll be able to see in the photos, excuse me, have been chucked and have precariously landed, strung up in trees and bushes and in all sorts of weird and wonderful places. And as you can see from this picture, guys, someone that walks along the canal with their dog is putting their dog shit in a dog bag on the wall at the same place the dog has a shit every day. Even when I was out for a walk near the reservoirs, out in the middle of nowhere with my family the other day, look at what happened when we decided to choose a bench to sit on to have our lunch. The beauty of the abiding hills. And the ugliness of the abandoned poo bag. So plastic is going to be where we start with this, because the very nature of most plastics, at least, is that they most of them are not biodegradable in any length of time that that matters to humans. They take dozens, if not hundreds of years to completely become at one with nature and disintegrate, dissolve, biodegrade, whatever word you want to choose. Of course, there are plastics in more recent years that are biodegradable, and you can buy them in supermarkets and places like that, and they're guaranteed to dissolve into the environment in much less time, I guess. I do remember one such roll of bags that I got, but the problem, I suppose, with the technology is that because they are biodegradable, they're not so good with wet substances, wet things inside them, which speeds up the decomposition. And if you don't put much rubbish in the bin, and your bin liner is in the actual bin for 3 months, perhaps that's not ideal when it comes to containing the things you want to throw away. But that's a little offshoot with recyclable plastic. As we all know, in most countries, plastic bags are not recyclable, or at least if the facility is there, it certainly isn't in England. Any places that I've lived have not been able to recycle plastic bags. So if there are the units, industrial units, that are capable of doing that, and they must be few and far between, or it must be an expensive process or something like that. So the long and short of it is, generally speaking, plastic is not good for the environment. It's not good in water for water wildlife, whether that's fish or bird life that lives there. They get tangled up in it. It's obviously not very digestible, and perhaps toxic to most animal life once it gets into the system. All in all, not a good thing to discard. Better to put it in the bin and get it sent to the local dump site, where it is then buried. I guess most places then bury that the rubbish in local tips, and it is then covered over and is left to its own devices over the course of time to disintegrate. Sorry, quick break there. Just sat down for a minute, because some people, when you start speeding up to try and get away from them, I mean, I'm not embarrassed about talking to myself on camera, so I sped up so that I could get some distance and get away from people. I don't like people being around me so much when I'm videoing, listening to what I'm saying. Although the other side of me doesn't give two shits what people think about that. It's just it's not in my nature to be able to talk to a black thing on a stick freely and let my thoughts ramble. So yeah, plastic bags, generally speaking, non-biodegradable, or they take a long time to degrade, and therefore probably not the best thing just to chuck it on the side of the road or on a fence post or to hang it from a tree. Apart from anything else, it looks unsightly. You kind of expect that kind of thing. You expect more litter in city centre, in a town centre, on the streets. You expect more litter there. There's more people. There's more shops selling things in wrappers for that rubbish to then appear on the streets. But then again, in those places, generally, there are more facilities to get rid of that rubbish, whether it's bins provided, recycling bins sometimes, street cleaners, people actually walking up and down and collecting it, sweepers, that kind of thing. And it's a small set area that has to be cleaned regularly on a fixed rotational basis. The irony of this bin is ridiculous. Dog waste bin, full of normal rubbish. Why isn't it being emptied, guys? Who's responsible for that? Rubbish next to it already. Why isn't it being emptied? And why is all the dog poo not in it? Out in the countryside, where you're just going to get the occasional passers-by walking the dogs, cycling and walking as I was yesterday, I'm not going to pick someone else's dog shit up. That's for you to pick your own dog shit up. Put it in a plastic bag, perhaps, possibly even a recyclable plastic bag, and then take it home with you and dispose of it in the correct way. Why do you have to leave it by the side of the road? I really don't understand it. And this is the crux of the point here. The crux of the issue is dog shit. As far as shits go, dog shit is probably one of the worst. Dog shit and human shit and any animal that eats meat, I guess, is going to produce stinky, toxic shit. No one wants to be anywhere near shit. But if it's horse shit or cow shit or sheep shit, I'd much rather be that. I'd much rather let you. I would let you smother me in that all day, compared to dog shit or my own shit. Even I wouldn't. I would smack the living daylights out of you. So, vegetable-based diets produce sweeter smelling, better for the environment shits. Meat-eating diets don't. I would imagine, again, lots of imagining, but I would imagine that because of the content of dog shit and human shit, because we eat meat generally, I would imagine that takes a little bit longer to biodegrade than a big horse turd. But who knows? Maybe some scientists can prove me right or wrong on that. The point is, if you take a shit in the woods, eventually it will disappear. If you wrap it in plastic, it's going to take 10 times longer to disappear. So that's my question to all of those people who are picking up their dog shit in plastic bags and then just tying it up and throwing it by the side of the road or the path. Why are you doing that? Is it a national game that I've not been party to? National competition to see who can get plastic bag full of dog shit in the most precarious position? Is that what it is? Do you post your dog shit bag on Instagram or something? Is there some place where people compare the... You know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying. It's ridiculous. Pick it up, put it in a bag, tie it up, put it in another bag maybe, take it home, or even as if you walk around, look around. I've just seen a guy over there and this guy here, and what did he do? He picked up his dog shit, or maybe somebody else's dog shit, and he put it in there. He's even got dog waste written on the bin. What good timing is that, eh? It doesn't even look like he's got a dog. So he's just grabbed a bag out of his own pocket, picked up somebody else's dog's dog shit, put it in the bag, tied it up, and put it in the dog waste bin, or any waste bin, doesn't matter really. Then it's going to go to a site, it's going to get buried, the plastic's going to disappear over time, and eventually holes will appear in that plastic bag, and the dog shit will take a lot less longer than the plastic to actually biodegrade. So why put it in the plastic in the first place? Here's an idea. Your dog does a shit, pick it up with maybe a trowel or something, fling it into the bushes, fling it into the side of the road, in amongst the trees where no one's going to tread on it and ruin their day, ruin their shoes. Pick it up or kick it or flick it, or use a stick, find a stick from a tree, flick it out into the undergrowth where it's not going to affect anybody. No plastic involved. There you go. There's my rant about plastic. And now, for some God almighty reason, I promised myself that I'd link that to ancient civilizations. How the bugger am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to allow myself, crossing the shitty main road that you all know about, I'm going to allow myself that time to consider the linkage, and I'll catch you again in a minute once I'm by the side of the peaceful canal. Yeah, okay, so I'm experimenting with something. Couldn't get through over there where all the buildings going on Pomona, I think it's called, Pomona Island. So I decided to try a little dirt track down the other side of the canal to where I normally walk, just for something different, and to see if I can get through to a place where I exited the canal before, which again used to be blocked off, but someone's made a hole through. Anyway, that doesn't make any sense, and I'm just waffling on, trying to avoid the connection of pleasant sound of a tram going over the, because I'm directly under, as you can probably see, the very graffitied tram line undercourse, and it looks like success. I think lots of homeless people probably sleep around here under that tram line, which can't be fantastic, surely. I mean, the trams are running early morning, 5, 6 perhaps, up to midnight sometimes, perhaps a little bit more. That's a good 18 plus hours a day that you got trams going over your head. That's bad enough just me walking under there with one going over, and just behind me you can see another one coming up straight away. That must be annoying. Maybe that's why the homeless people go to the city centre during the day and make some money, and then go and buy the booze or whatever it is and shoot up somewhere, and then just get back there at night time just to get as many hours sleep as they can. But there you go. So, got this guy following me around on his delivery bike. Fair play to you, mate, you've got yourself a job. You don't look like you're from this country. I know a lot of the delivery guys are Eritrean. I used to give out the Manchester Evening News and the Metro newspapers a few times a week as a job, and a lot of the guys that did the same job as me, I was pretty much the only white guy there, the only British white guy anyway. Lots of Polish people and people from northeastern Africa, I think it is, Eritrea, and perhaps a few other countries around there, Somalians maybe. Lovely people, absolutely salt of the earth. Just love life and love smiling. Nice people. But some of the younger ones on the bikes with the delivery boxes on their backs, they're a danger to themselves and to the rest of the trafficking public. I don't mean trafficking in the drug sense. People, pedestrians, cyclists, motorists. Guys, you need to watch out. You're going through traffic lights and all sorts, breakneck speeds, across wet, slippery tram lines when it's raining and dark and windy. I've had a few nasty falls from my bike, and I just plod around shopping and stuff like that. So take it easy. Anyway, that was my second attempt at avoiding the point. I was talking about plastic and dog shit, and the strange people who put their dog shit into plastic bags and then just throw it away by the side of the road. And everywhere you look, there's another one. Why do they do it? Plastic's just delaying the inevitable time for its decomposition. And on this beautiful, glorious, big wasteland that we have here, and you put it in a plastic bag. I don't understand it. So, anyway, one of the things that... Okay, start again. Because I need to collect my thoughts on this. It's got to be a good segue. When lots of people, historians and ancient historians, talk about the past, or you read about it in books, or you go and see it for yourself, and you go to a castle for a day out, you go and visit the pyramids, you discover, as I do on walks like this, ruins of buildings from the industrial age. However you delve into history, the things that we discover, laymen like me, scientists, professionals who have studied archaeology and history and the monarchy and the succession of the line and everything to do with history, whether it's fairly recent or medieval or even further back than that, hundreds or thousands of years. And the way that we document it, people, it's often controversial, of course. Lots of people think that it hasn't been documented very accurately. As someone said, I can't remember who, it's always the person who wins the war that writes about it. The people who lose just would rather forget it. And so therefore the viewpoint, the historical accuracy is perhaps biased. And one of the things that we use to try and make history as accurate as possible, I guess, is, obviously we've talked about the buildings and the remnants of past ages, the architecture, and another thing that goes hand in hand with that combines with that to give us a fuller picture of the people that lived in those buildings are the artifacts that are found, whether it's pottery or tools or fanciful goods or whatever it is that's discovered in and around that site, that archaeological heritage site, help us to paint a better picture of the people that once lived there. In order to do that, we need to discover artifacts, but the problem with that is that the only ones that survive are the ones that we use. If someone ate a dodo, for example, a dodo leg, and ate one of the legs and decided that the other one wasn't for him, he was too full, and threw it away, months later, certainly years, centuries or millennia later, that chicken leg, or dodo leg, sorry, isn't going to be there for us to look at. It's disintegrated, it's gone. Nature has taken its course, it's biodegradable. Can you see my link? It's coming. So therefore, we don't know whether medieval people or cavemen or whoever we're looking into, we don't know whether they ate dodo's legs. We can't take the dodo's legs and fingerprint it to see if the guy how he grabbed it or anything like that. So biodegradable matter, biomass, organic matter is going to disintegrate, and what we're left with is things like pottery, the bricks and mortar of buildings, the things that have survived. And as you know, if you visited any really ancient dilapidated castle, for example, in England, Scotland or Wales or anywhere in the world, the weather and the wind and the rain and natural erosion and wars and explosions, and nature takes its course, and sometimes all we're left with is a shell of what was once there. And that's the hard materials, you know, the ones that are more likely to survive, which is why millions of pounds are spent every year on, foolishly or not, trying to restore some of these buildings to what they once looked like. Some people would prefer that the castle that they're visiting is exactly as nature has left it, and some people would prefer that the castle has been rejuvenated and made to look like its former glory. So the point is, if mankind used plastic in the past, if thousands, but maybe longer than that, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago, when ancient civilizations existed on the planet, had they progressed far enough to discover plastic? And if so, where is it? Where is the plastic? If they discovered it, where is it? Well, I guess then we have to look at our own plastic and decide how long that's going to last. We talked about biodegradable plastics, and I'm sure there's multiple different types of plastic: hard, soft, long wearing, flimsy. You know, as we know for ourselves, parts of machinery are made from exceedingly hard varieties, and if you go shopping, then you're more than likely put your stuff in a carrier bag and take it home in that. Waterproof, slightly expandable, very thin but strong plastic, most of which aren't recycled, I think, whereas the harder ones are. One strange thing about plastics where I live is that you can take I drink bottled water, and I hate doing it. I hate buying into the plastic trap, because if I want to, but the problem is if if I drink the tap water, I live on the 13th floor of an apartment building. This is going off on a shoot, but if you drink water from any of the floors up to floor 6, it comes from the mains. Some people don't even like the mains water in England, and it's harder or softer depending on where you live in the country. I think most of ours come from reservoirs nearby, but it is treated in England, the water that comes through your tap. There's lots of people that say you can taste the chlorine in the water or whatever, got other chemicals they put into it to try and clean it before it arrives in your house or flat. Ugh. Something stinky around here. Some stinky burnt plastic kind of smell. Try and speed up a bit, get away from it. Talking of hazardous chemicals, burning the back of my throat. I think we'll be past it in a minute. There's just a noisy scrapyard up there, which you can probably hear. Anyway, so where was I? So I don't drink the water from the tap. I live on the 13th floor, which is above the 6th floor, and therefore the water goes, the mains water is pumped up to a tank on the roof, and the water from my flat comes from the tank on the roof. People come round regularly, I think it's once a month, and pour chemicals into the water because it's in a tank, and probably adding more chemicals to the chemicals already put in it by the treatment works, and then that gets pumped down into my flat for me to supposedly drink. No thanks, I would rather take my risk with water that's been stored in a plastic bottle for a while, even though some people think that the plastic in the bottles is still toxifying the water, if that's a word. So there we go, there's the explanation for why I drink bottled water, but it is with reluctance, because I'm buying into the whole plastic cycle. The weird thing about my plastic bottles once they're empty is the fact that we're allowed to put the bottle itself into the recycling bin, but not the cap. Both of them are made from plastic. Why can't we recycle the caps? What is it about the quality or the nature of the makeup of the bottle that is different from the cap? Sparkling water, not always, sometimes, mostly sparkling water is what I drink. The cap has to be stronger. I understand that. The cap has to be stronger to stop the water from leaking out, made of a more substantial material, so that it doesn't leak out, and that's all well and good. But why is it that we can recycle the larger part of it and not the smaller? Maybe a plastics engineer can answer that question for me. Maybe in some parts of the world the caps are recycled and we just don't have the correct facility or factory nearby a recycling plant to be able to do that. If not, why not, you know? So that's a whole nother story about recycling. I mean, you've probably seen videos of, if you haven't, go and watch them, videos of trackers that have been put on shiploads of recyclable material, bottles, glass, paper, plastics, that are then some kind of transaction happens and they end up in China, who promise to recycle them but probably then don't. It's maybe a whole big scandal going on there that we don't know about. And that's probably for another video. In the meantime, back to the plastic. Most plastics probably are not going to be. If you dropped a plastic bottle in the verge, I would imagine it would be at least 20 years before most plastics of that kind would disintegrate and be completely, as if, leave no trace. Perhaps even longer. Maybe it's more like 50 or 100 years. What kind of legacy is that we're leaving for future generations? Or are we completely mistaken about it? Will it actually take a lot less time? The thing is, I'm meant to be talking about ancient civilizations, and did they actually had they reached the stage, if you can call it an advanced stage or not, of discovering that they could get oil and make plastic out of it? Do we even know that they could get oil? That they discovered oil? I guess superficial oil wells and resources do exist over the globe. So maybe for quite a long time knowledge of oil existed, and maybe therefore there were certain discoveries made as to what could be done with it, whether it was using it as a raw material as a fuel, or refining it and using it as a fuel. But did they make, if they did, did they know that you could make plastics out of it? And if they did, where is all the plastic? Has it all gone? Has it all disintegrated and disappeared? Is there piles and piles of medieval or even older, thousands of years old plastic containers at the bottom of the ocean somewhere that we haven't discovered yet? Unlikely, I would say. Unlikely. And yet, if you can take a broad viewpoint of and look at multiple different sources of information for ancient civilizations and how advanced they were, it would seem, on the surface at least, that most ancient civilizations had technology that at least equaled ours in some respects, or perhaps even was more advanced. If we, just as a quick example, if we were to try and recreate the Great Pyramid today, it would take thousands of hours, billions of pounds, and a heck of a long time just to organise it and get it off the ground. Not even thinking about whether we have the technology to lift such huge 100, 200, 300 ton stones and place them with such accuracy. I don't think even the infrastructure or the technology or the machinery exists today to equal that, especially in the length of time, the timeline that most quackademics, as somebody once called them, say that it took to build the pyramids, that Khufu built his pyramid in his lifetime using stones to chip away at big blocks and then transport them on barges down the river. So there you go, there's just one example of the technology that existed then. There's been lots of speculation about that, just as a side shoot, and lots of speculation about whether it was actually the hard manual labour and chipping away at stones that got them so smooth and mirror finished, whether it was just normal boats that they transported the stones on, how they actually managed to get the stones up so high and so accurately placed on each other. ramps and all sorts of ideas have been put forward, and nobody's really sure. Some people have come up with ideas of that they had machinery similar to ours now, cutting saws and drills, and some people think that there was a technology available to them that we don't have now. The use of sound and vibration and waves to lift and move things and cut things. Perhaps it's a minefield of mainstream media, mainstream archaeologists, and people that don't believe that story. And what you have to do as a human being like myself, of course I am, yeah, need to remind myself sometimes. What you need to do is take a look at all of the evidence, absorb as much evidence as you can, from the mainstream quackademics to John Anthony West, bless his soul, and everybody in between, and every new theory that comes out, on YouTube channels like ancient artichokes. Well, if we're talking about ancient dodo wings not surviving, then I'm sure ancient artichokes aren't going to survive either. No, ancient architects. I can't say it. Ancient art. You try saying it, right? Ancient Take 3. Ancient art. I can't do it. It won't come out my mouth. Said the art mistress to the gardener. Ancient architects. There we go. See, I did it. I was under the stress of moving away of a cycle that was coming hurtling towards me, and the stress made me get the words out of the mouth. Ancient architects. Done. See, I've got it. Right. So, ancient architects. I think his name's Matt. Go check out his YouTube channel. Some really interesting and diverse range of videos covering that whole subject of the Incas and pyramids and all sorts of other things as well. Really interesting. Go and check it out. So that's my plug for the day. Hi guys, Future Pete here again. Some more honourable mentions should go at this point to a few other people, amongst many. Graham Hancock, for example, and his research into past civilizations, including his amazing book, Fingerprints of the Gods, and to another YouTube channel called Uncharted X, the guy there who has likewise done lots of research into the Egyptians mostly, but also ancient civilizations across the world, including the Serapeum in Egypt, and I'll link his website down below, his YouTube channel. And I suppose another one on this endless list really is Randall Carlson, for his research into ancient cataclysms, ancient civilizations, the Younger Dryas, and amongst many other things, including hidden sacred number theory and all that kind of stuff. Go check them out. The links are in the description below. And whether they actually had plastic or not, who knows? They certainly had, on the surface it seems, much more advanced technology in some respects than we've got now. And you can probably see I've reached a little canal basin here, which is a bit of a sun trap and rather pleasant to sit at. So if I can find a chair over there, I think there's one in the sun, I'm going to sit down and have my lunch. I'll get back to you soon. Of course, another thought that just struck me as I've on the very last stretches of my now urban walk home is, and I'll try and keep this brief, if ancient technologies were in some ways more advanced, than ours, then did they or did they not discover reserves of oil and gas and other things that we take for granted today? Or did they not? Did they know about them or not? Did they choose not to use them because they already had other more efficient, cheaper ways of producing energy or achieving the things that they wanted from life? Are we the inferior, an inferior version of what man can be, could be, could be, or has been? Because if that's the case, then, you know, as scientists have, you know, almost unanimously agreed upon, there was some kind of impact, whether it was a meteor or some kind of cataclysm, that caused the more recent ice age, the Younger Dryas, and everything that happened then, the destroying of perhaps civilizations that existed before, and man surviving and certain species surviving to produce the wildlife that we have on the planet today, but was loads of species of plant, fauna, animals were wiped out, you know, as evidenced by saber-toothed tigers and mammoths, for example. So obviously the technology, if man had similar or slightly inferior or superior technology then, but undoubtedly different to the technology we have now, was that all wiped out, and man now is just an inferior species that has, for the last 10 or 11,000 years or so, been struggling to reproduce what existed before. The capacity of the technology that was available to us before has disappeared. The knowledge of how to go about it disappeared, and you know, maybe oil and gas and all the other subsidiary, supposedly green technologies that we have now, ways of producing energy, the increasingly small size of gadgets and electrical technology, communication devices, all of that, everything that we now think is so wonderful about technology now, maybe is just an inferior version of what existed before, or maybe mankind didn't need that before to make their lives fulfilling. And certainly if you look around at the misery, the poverty, the discontent around the planet, whether you live in a rich country or a poor country, certainly you would imagine, I hate that word imagine, I always use it, but you would think that that perhaps we're missing something. You know, this is dipping our toe in the water of quite a deep subject now, and maybe one that I should return to in future videos. But did man in the past have access to things that we might now call magic? You know, maybe that's where the myths and the legends started with regards to magic powers. Maybe and maybe it works both ways. You know, maybe if you took a man from the Inca or Egyptian civilizations, or even before that, and said, look at this nuclear power, or this computer, or, you know, gave an example of what we consider advanced technology today, maybe they would be astounded and think that was magic, as much as we think what they could do was magic. An interesting thing to think about. I think this is a topic that I'll probably return to in a future video, because ancient architects and ancient civilizations is something that I'm trying to research and read a lot about, and broaden my mind about the possibilities of what actually happened in mankind's past, instead of just getting up 9 to 5 and doing that till I die. You know, think about the broader scope of the meaning of life. Anyway, I'm home now, and I don't want my neighbours to think that I'm so lonely that I talk to myself on a stick all day. I'll catch you in the next one. you